Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giribharatari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharatari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamnati Ravana Chahari Jamunati Ravana Chahari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharatari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharatari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamnati Ravana Chahari Ravana Chahari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharatari Gopijana Vallabha Giribharatari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunati Ravana Chahari Jamunati Ravana Chahari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radhe Govinda Jayo, Radhe Govinda. 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 Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana. Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana. Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana. Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana. Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Nitai Gora, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora, Haribo. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajik Charya Stotara Satashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Zagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mayapur Dham Ki, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Maya Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagi Ki, Brihat Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki, ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Stardesi. Hare Krishna, good morning and welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. We are today reading from the first canto, chapter 6, verse number 22. And it is the conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sakridya Darshitam Rupam Etat Kamayate Naga Matkama Shanakai Sadhu Sarvan Munchati Richchayan. Sakridya Darshitam Rupam Itatkam Mayaten Naga Matkama Shanakai Sadhu Sarvan Munchati Richchayan. Sakridya Darshitam Rupam Itatkam Mayaten Naga Matkama Shanakai Sadhu Sarvan Munchati Richchaya. Sakrit, once only. Yat, that. Darshitam, shown. Rupam, form. Etat, that is. Kamaya, for hankerings. Te, your. Anaga, O virtuous one. Mat, mine. Kama, desire. Shanakai, by increasing. Sadhu, devotee. Sarvan, all. Munchati, gives away. Hrichayan, material desires. And the translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. A living being cannot be vacant of desires. He is not a dead stone. He must be working, thinking, feeling, and willing. But when he thinks, feels, and wills materially, he becomes entangled. And conversely, when he thinks, feels, and wills for the service of the Lord, he becomes gradually freed from all entanglement. The more a person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. That is the transcendental nature of godly service. Material service has satiation, whereas spiritual service of the Lord has neither satiation nor end. One can go on increasing his hankerings for his loving transcendental service of the Lord, and yet he will not find satiation or end. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. Therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in his service, because his service and his person are identical. The sincere devotee should go on with sincere service of the Lord. The Lord will give proper direction as to how and where it has to be done. There was no material desire in Narada, and yet to increase his intense desire for the Lord, he was so advised. Born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master. Open my eyes with a torch I have knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance to him. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Staya Leshmani Bhaktivedanta Swami Itinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Sitava Deshitarane Vanchikal Paturu Yaschakri Sinu Evacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna. So we have an incredible verse and purport here by Srila Prabhupada. There's one devotee at the moment who is going and collecting some of the most ecstatic purports of Srila Prabhupada. They're all ecstatic, you will say. But about the ones which absolutely give incredible potency and optimism in performing devotional service. The particular devotee I know had studied some of the self-help gurus and all the various literature which is on that basis to try to encourage people. And of course, the reason that he's doing it is to show how many of these kind of verses are there and statements in Srila Prabhupada's books, and how Srila Prabhupada is the topmost, is the ultimate, the supreme in that whole area of encouraging people, especially in life, but also in devotional service. The whole basis of the purport again is that Krishna is telling Narada that you have seen me once, and unfortunately you won't see me again in this lifetime. But the reason I'm doing this is because I want to increase your desire to be with me. So he's there for once, and this actually increases the desire because he won't be there again as such in the same way as he was seemingly physically present at that point. As Tulsi mentioned the other day, also Maharaj Parikshit, he was in exactly the same situation. When the Brahmastra, which was flung by Ashvatam, was approaching fast, and Mother Uttara approached Krishna for help. The embryo in her womb was going to be destroyed. Ashvatam wanted to finish off completely the dynasty of the Pandavas. So what Krishna did is he went in and he created a new body inside the womb of Uttara for Maharaj Parikshit to take shelter. And Maharaj Parikshit saw that person, and for the rest of his life, he only saw him once, but for the rest of his life he was looking. Where is that person? Where is that person? That's why Parikshit means the person who examines. He's examining everybody. Is this him? Is this him? Is this him? But it is extremely providential then at the end, when he is about to leave his body, Maharaj Parikshit, he finds the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken. Krishna is appearing in the Srimad Bhagavatam at the end. So Krishna appears again in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course we have that amazing verse, I think it's in the third chapter. And it's also referred to in the foreword. It's 1.3.43. I'll just say the English of it here. This Bhagavat Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. This is where the light is, not the next theory of conspiracy. Yes, we will not get light from that. There is not light at that in that theory. There may be some reference in that in a theory which explains about the nature of the demoniac side, but which is worth examining. We have to study the nature of the material and the spiritual, as it's explained in the Shri Upanishad. But let's not get caught there. There's a bigger conspiracy theory going on. There's a bigger one. It's called Maya. This is one of the statements of Srila Prabhupada. He would say that the things that he finds with his disciples, that that they don't study his books enough, and also that they're not afraid enough of Maya. But it's very interesting that, of course, this is where Maharaj Parikshit sees Krishna again, in the words of the Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami is explaining very clearly where Krishna has taken refuge, or where Krishna can be found. And the sages of Naimisharanya, they ask Sutta Goswami, okay, how can we get some relief in this age? And he recites the Srimad Bhagavatam. But that whole point of Krishna being there and then going, also we find in the higher stages, it's replicated. It's quite interesting how these great things are replicated, these great situations are replicated throughout the Bhagavatam. We see it in Maharaj Parikshit, we see it here in Narada, but then we also see it in the 10th canto, the lofty realms of the 10th canto. Now, pare ham, Krishna says, there's no way that I can repay you. But the gopis ask Krishna, how are we supposed to view you as a lover? Are you a one who reciprocates with his lover? And Krishna says, no, I'm not just a merchant who exchanges. Are you one who just is negligent? Or are you one who is very callous? But then Krishna explains that no, this is I'm not able to repay you for your great service. And this is what he explained when he removed himself, first of all from the gopis, when they were in the forest with him during the rasa dance, or after the rasa dance, and then they became completely bewildered, mad, looking for him, and then they saw this one gopi and she had disappeared, or she had gone with Krishna, and then they discovered Krishna had left Radharani as well, and so they were all completely distraught without Krishna. But then Krishna appeared again, and he said that I can't really repay you, but I only do this. I become absent just so that to increase your desire to serve me. So we'll see that theme throughout the Bhagavatam, and we'll see it throughout as well. And actually, just one last point on that is that some of the gopis, they weren't able to meet Krishna at that time, and again they couldn't see Krishna, and they were they couldn't leave their homes. Their relatives wouldn't let them go, and so while they were in their rooms, some of them even left their body because they were without Krishna and were serving in Krishna's absence, and they purified themselves. So we were getting some indication there how Krishna acts, and we notice, as I was saying, that this is one of the really, really, I'll probably say that about the next one as well. Jayananda used to say that about Prasadam. That's the famous Jayananda, that he would say that, this Prasadam is the best I've ever taken. But then he'd say that about every Prasadam that he took. But this part here, for Krishna says that a living being cannot be vacant of desires. He is not a dead stone. He must be working, thinking, feeling, and willing. I found a great refuge in the Krishna consciousness movement that I could actually do that. I was studying Buddhism, which is a lot about staying in one place and meditating and not doing anything and keeping the body erect. And, it was very difficult, very, very difficult. So when I got into Zen Buddhism, I heard about this. Oh, we can move around in Zen. Right? This is really good. And then when I heard about Krishna consciousness, that was even much, much better. You could do so many, many things. And this is about service to Krishna. So, and funny, in the second line of this, Srila Prabhupada, he almost, explains the whole Krishna consciousness movement almost in one line, if he could do that. But he does. He explains it, makes it very clear for us. But when he thinks, feels, and wills materially, he becomes entangled. And conversely, when he thinks, feels, and wills for the service of the Lord, he becomes gradually freed from all entanglement. So, this is the choice that we have. We can go for sense gratification, or we can go for spiritual life. We know that the choice of the asuras, they go for sense gratification. They want to eat, drink, and be merry for the rest of their lives, and that is the path that we do not want to take. That's the path that we're trying to avoid. Although this Bhagavatam, as we heard really earlier, is for all types of people, the 4 types of people who are favourable to Krishna consciousness and the 4 types of people who are unfavourable to Krishna consciousness. Still, the distinction is there between the Sura and the Asura. We are trying to avoid sense gratification because it entangles us. We become entangled and we become stuck in karma. We're almost not free to move, although that we are free. I'll just take one little example there which I want to give about karma, is that when we're on an aeroplane, we get on board the airplane, we get on board in Dublin, and then we fly to New York, when all the restrictions are finished, shall we say. So when we're on that plane, it's not that we can get off and go somewhere else. No, we're going to go to New York. That's where it's going to go, bar there's some mad accident or something in the airport. But that's general the situation, the laws of karma. So it's almost kind of destined to go someplace. But while we're on the airplane, we can make so many different choices. And this is something that I found actually sometimes when I'm traveling. actually it's a very good time for me to study or to make a resume of my life or how I'm going, or a quick look and to see, am I progressing? Am I doing this, and this? So even when you're on the plane, you can actually think about, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to do this in my life. You know, we can actually make changes to our karma while on the plane, you know. Or, okay, you could even say we can choose to watch the movie that's in front of us. We can choose to read the Bhagavatam. We can choose to some food on the plane, whatever, you know, or we can take out our sandwiches that we've made. Whatever it is, we have those kind of choices. So it's not, we have free will while we're on the plane. And we can actually make huge decisions which will totally affect our future. But it's just this little question that came up recently about free will and destiny. But another point is that the Asura and the Sura. This is the point I was talking to Nanda Prabhu. You might be making this point the other day, and he was reading, hearing some of Srila Prabhupada's lectures on the Bhagavad Gita, and it's very nice that he hears the lectures in succession, like 2:12. Maybe it's spoken in London in 72, and then spoken in Bombay in 74, the same verse. And he was saying it's amazing how Prabhupada is practically saying the same thing. Like Prabhupada is so consistent, you know. But of course he was making this point about Asuras, that how they, it's not that they have big things coming from their, horns coming from them. It's material desires. People are choosing them, you know, and then some of them become so demonic, the demonic nature, you know. We can see, and we can even see in the divisions of faiths, chapter 16 and chapter 17 in Bhagavad Gita, that these people are there among us, you know, and even worse still, people say, oh, it's there in us, you know, the divine, the devotee and the demon is there within us as well. Oh, so what do? Well, we don't feed the demon, you know, we don't feed the demonic side. We only feed the devotional side, and this is what Prabhupada is doing here. He's giving us this is what the situation is. Now, this is what you do. You know, he's giving us the divine instructions. And this is what Bhagavatam really does for us. If we hear it every day, we hear the divine instructions. We're given information about the demonic instructions, but Prabhupada is like the super personal trainer. Go for the spiritual, go for the spiritual, go for the spiritual. And he gives such convincing arguments. And he says it with such conviction. Right at the start of the Bhagavatam, he says that you will get realization of God as a tangible fact in your life, and you will be able to convince others of it also. So this is how Prabhupada is preaching to us, and this is our what word? Legacy, exactly. This is our legacy from Srila Prabhupada, that we give it to others. And this is how we please Srila Prabhupada, by giving this to others. So, in the next line, he says, the more a person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. So, that word is just hanker. I want it. I want spiritual life. I don't want material life. Now, our mind doesn't always say that to us in that same degree, but Srila Prabhupada, our supreme personal trainer, is telling us, you know, what to go for, what to expect, what to look for. Hankering. I remember, I hate to use these mundane examples, but I brought up in the West. I used to play football and hurling for an Athena football club. And, you know, you'd have all the mentors along the side of the pitch, you know, and the ball is coming to you, and they just, ball on the ball, go for it, go, you know. You'd hear them going mad. Sometimes the mentors would be more into it than the actual players on the pitch, you know. But that's actually, there's a whole psychology behind that as well, you know. And as we know in the material world, you know, Think and Grow Rich, or, you know, there's all this about, you can make it, you can be a millionaire, you know, everyone can be a millionaire, all of this. So there's all that kind of that there. And this is Srila Prabhupada, but he's doing it in a spiritual way. The hankering, this word hankering, he wants us to go for it. And if we get some indications of it as we go along, we know we're on the right track. So next comes, that is the transcendental nature of godly service. Whew. Transcendental nature of godly service. That is the nature of it. Then here we go. Material service has satiation, whereas spiritual service of the Lord has neither satiation nor end. So it's just never ending. It's increasing. So this is an experience that you won't get in the material world, despite all the conspiracy of the material energy to tell you that you'll be happy here and you'll be happy ever after. Ever hear that at the end of the story? And they lived happily ever after. No one ever lived happily ever after. No, they ended up having tubes in their arms and oxygen and, and their last breath. That's not happy ever after. But that's the reality. But the spiritual world is happy ever after. I've noticed actually during this break, sometimes I get an opportunity to go out and chant, and the sun has been amazing in the last while. And there's a certain place where I walk up and down. It's a big field, and I can chant going up and down. And there's footpath way on the sides, and people generally stick to the footpath, so I can still chant and hear and not be distracted very much, because not many people walk in the middle. I have my Wellington boots as well. It allows me to do it. It was the best purchase I ever made, was those Wellington boots, which I got for Inshrath. So, when I'm walking up and down, the sun is coming. I can see the trees are all on the horizon, the blue skies, and it is incredible. There's an incredible feeling that this is ever increasing. And I'm hearing the mantra, I'm getting little inclinations, I'm not saying there's a comparison here, but I remember Hari Vilas, when he was walking with Srila Prabhupada in London, Prabhupada was doing one of his morning walks, and he heard him whispering, I'm walking in Vaikuntha. Srila Prabhupada in London at the time, but this is the way Srila Prabhupada was speaking, that with the chanting, you can actually get these incredible experiences. One of my friends, Danny, because he often goes to up the mountains to chant, and he always does it. And it's sometimes you can. I remember even when I used to sell paintings, and a friend of mine, Vilnius, myself, we used to go out in the morning before anything started, 6 o'clock, 6:30, in the forest parks around Northern Ireland. And the chanting was just incredible. It was amazing. It was amazing chanting. We used to talk about it at the end of it. This whole feeling of no satiation, ever increasing, no ending, this is a spiritual sensation, because that's the nature of the spiritual world. And we can experience it here. We can experience it through the chanting, through service. This is the beauty of the spiritual world. So Prabhupada is giving us an indicator of what the spiritual world is like, is because he's the supreme teacher. And he says, one can go on increasing his hankerings for the loving transcendental service of the Lord, and yet he will not find satiation or end. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. So, although the purport explains how Narada only experienced Krishna once, Prabhupada gives us a clear understanding that we can experience Krishna. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendentally. So that's the stage from Shraddha to Prema in one fell sentence. Not in one fell swoop, but in one fell sentence. That's what Srila Prabhupada is giving. What an expert. No one can compare. It's just unbelievable the way he can do this. And then he says, therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in his service, because his service and his person are identical. His service, again, another nugget. His service and his person are identical. The 9 stages of devotional service, from hearing, chanting, remembering. We can get right in the presence of Krishna right here and then. That's our that's not just our legacy, but that's our constitutional position. That's who we are. That's who we are. Nothing else. Nothing else. And it's very interesting because Krishna says, he explains that in this purport, this is one of the this is what Srila Prabhupada wrote before he came to the West. This is the first canto. He wrote this in the courtyard of Radha Damodar temple, with having the association of Srila Rupa Goswami, of all the greats, acharyas. Srila Prabhupada was writing this 1 o'clock in the morning, and we notice that in this purport he uses the word service 9 times. 9 times he uses the word service. 8 times favorably, and 1 time is service of the material energy. I'm not going to find it here just straight away, but 8 times he talks about service. When we were reading the teachings of Lord Chaitanya last night, there was one part that Reena was reading, and in that Srila Prabhupada had the Maha Mantra about 10, 15 times, the whole Maha Mantra. Supriya was saying that Reena had got one of her rounds done for the day. And it was incredible how Srila Prabhupada uses this repetition. And he was speaking to his devotees at the beginning at that time, because Teaching of Lord Chaitanya is one of the first books, and it's an amazing book. It's absolutely amazing. And so here we sat at Srila Prabhupada. He's trying to get us to take into this point about service. So service means the servitor, served, and the act of service. How many times does Srila Prabhupada tell us not to get stuck into impersonalism, that we all become one? So often. So much of the Buddhism and a lot of the quasi-spirituality that goes on in the world today is you become one with the divine, basically, Now, Prabhupada very clearly explains that we do become one with the divine. We become one in interest with the divine. That is a highly elevated stage of spiritual life. Highly, highly, highly elevated. Dovetail our service with the supreme service, because it is an actual state. It is not that we're kind of we're not conscious. We're conscious that we are who we are, but we're conscious of Krishna. But Krishna is there with us, so we're part of Krishna. But that is a stage that what is Krishna consciousness means as a living entity, as a Tatastha Shakti person in the interim stage between the divine and the material. We're marginal. It is a totally relaxed stage. We're not worried about anything, because we have an example in this world that we're always worried about something, eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing. It's the last one to go, we've often heard. We somehow or other, I don't want to use this word, that very bad word, screw up our devotional service because we're worried. The mind is there, we're worried. No, we actually reach a stage where Krishna works through us. We are Krishna's devotees, We are, Krishna is achieving things in this world as devotees. So this is a very subtle stage. So we have to get into that consciousness. So the way we can do that is through service. We're not serving our senses, we're serving Krishna's senses. As I said, it's not an intellectual thing. It's something that we're just there. I refer straight away to an Antinitai's point about when they were having milk in the evening and they were reading the Krishna book, and suddenly they didn't have to say it, but Krishna was present. They just felt the presence of Krishna. Krishna was there in the words of the Bhagavatam, of the Krishna book. So this is the states that we're trying to achieve. This is where we want to be. So I also then want to explain about this incredible power, potency of Srila Prabhupada to speak in this way. But also, the Bhagavatam doesn't only speak about these things. Like we could say, yeah, we're great. We're sometimes you get people who are so positive it makes you sick. That it just couldn't be that positive. Hold on, Prabhu. Come on. But but the Bhagavatam speaks about not such wonderful things as well. I mean, Sri Ram Swami was giving a class last week. I think it was on Sunday, and he brought up the point of one of his dear friends, Shruti Dharma, who left his body recently, and Shruti Dharma Prabhu in the last, he was diagnosed for 2 years. He had cancer, but in the last while he wasn't that conscious. He wasn't that aware, and so what happens there? We know vapi smaram bhavam chajite antikalevram. Whatever one thinks of at the point of death, that state he will attain without fail. So what about in those situations? And Sri Ram Swami, he also he gave the example of Srila Prabhupada. After the 1977 Gurpanim festival, Srila Prabhupada, he actually got sick. And then basically he got sicker and sicker and sicker. Now, Srila Prabhupada was different. He was very conscious, obviously. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is that these are some of the things that we have to go through. Like, it's not just everything is absolutely always... everything is wonderful, is wonderful, is wonderful. And if you say it enough, you'll convince yourself. At the same time, you might be having a bad toothache. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Bhagavatam is realistic. And Sri Ram Swami went on to make that point that those two things that we may become, it'll happen to us. Who knows? Manu gets, cancer in 2 days' time. I'm not willing it on, don't worry. But, and then I go through an excruciating 12 months of, disintegration. This can happen to devotees. It does happen to devotees. But, the devotees, they're incredible. We've heard some amazing stories of what happens at that time. But we may not be able to think of Krishna at the point of death. And that's what Sri Ram Swami was saying. And he was quoting a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote in 1967 to one of the devotees. That while we have this consciousness, because one of the devotees asked them this, while we have this consciousness, we should perform service, and we should be always thinking of Krishna. They were the things that he was saying. That we and while we're healthy, we have this health. Health is incredible. It's an incredible benefit that we have, that we can perform service when we're healthy. Anybody who's had health and then suddenly it's taken away from them, boy, they see how incredible important health is afterwards. So we can perform this service while we're healthy, and we can have this consciousness while we're healthy. Use it every last breath. Again, the encouragement from Ananti Nitai Prabhu the other day, while we can, and I think Karneshwari made the point afterwards, I'm going to go and Harinam all the time now. It's, whenever we can, and actually, to her credit, of course, she said that even beforehand. She was saying, we should go on this Harinam again on Saturdays. We should get this going again. So this is the reality, that while we have this health and this consciousness and this ability, we should give the holy name. We should give the holy name as much as we can on Saturday evenings. Again, so many of my friends, are in the same boat. Ananda Hari was always bringing in his huge, big, cumbersome, but amazing sound system that we used to bring with us through the cobble streets in Temple Bar. But he never minded. Just, oh yeah, that's great. The sound is brilliant. This is our this is what we need to do. This is kind of, like as I said, as our legacy. We can give the holy name while we're here as much as possible. It has a powerful effect, and we should be always thinking of different ways in which we can inculcate this Maha Mantra into the tired brains of the souls in Kali Yuga, because the demons are not missing a chance. We know that. They're looking for different ways to get their sense gratification, however that is. They're constantly, and any of us who's been, in business or whatever, you get into business and suddenly you're dragged around to the material world, trying to keep up, and constantly thinking of new ways to try to stay ahead of the pack to make a living. you know. But Prabhupada, he wanted us to live simply. And I know some of us are thinking of ways in which we can do this now, you know, in the Krishna consciousness movement in Ireland, thinking of ways in which we can reduce that entanglement in the material society. There was a beautiful article written on Dandavats recently on the devotees who were in the New Vrajdam farm. And in it, they were saying that they're 70%, 80% self-sufficient, but now seeing they're cut off from the world, now they're going to try to be 100% because they have to. They're cut off, so they can't rely. So a lot of their growers are thinking of new ways of doing different. You know, they're doing different ways of harnessing the seeds or growing things which they weren't able to grow before. In other words, they're forced even more so. So it shows you. I remember Maharaj back in the early 90s, he was talking about this, you know, you can't eat a philosophy, this is what he said, you know. He was very practical. You won't be able to eat the philosophy. You have to, you know, you'll have to eat food, so you have to look at ways. So he's prepared and he's ready, and now he's going the full way. So in Ireland we may not have reached that yet, but we're still not badly placed. We have Inishrat there. We have the restaurant in Dublin, hopefully social distancing, etc., allowing whatever. That will become a hub again, and we will start our, you know, our Ahimsa farm outside Dublin by Krishna's grace. So these things are there, you know. Prabhupada wanted us to actually to set up these different situations whereby we could practice Krishna consciousness simply. So I'm going to just then go on to explain how the Bhagavatam. I'll give you two examples. I'll just explain how the Bhagavatam is not just giving you one side. He's giving you. I'll just read two sections from very short sections. Lord Kapila is instructing his mother Devahuti about the material world. So there's a chapter. There's two chapters. The movements of the living entities and the description of adverse fruitive activities. So this is the reality. This is going on in the illusion. This is the actual reality of the illusion. Do you get that? This is a translation. This is chapter 30, canto 3, text number 20. At death he sees the messengers of the Lord of Death come before him, their eyes full of wrath, and in great fear he passes stool and urine. As a criminal is arrested for punishment by the constables of the state, a person engaged in criminal sense gratification is similarly arrested by Yamadutas, who bind him by the neck with strong rope and cover his subtle body so that he may undergo severe punishment. While carried by the constables of Yamaraj, he is overwhelmed and trembles in their hands. While passing on the road, he is bitten by dogs, and he can remember the sinful activities of his life. He is thus terribly distressed. Under the scorching sun, the criminal has to pass through roads of hot sand and forest fires on both sides. He is whipped on the back by the constables because of his inability to walk, and he is afflicted by hunger and thirst. But unfortunately, there is no drinking water, no shelter, and no place for rest on the road. While passing on the road to the abode of Yamaraj, he falls down in fatigue, and sometimes he becomes unconscious, but he is forced to rise again. In this way, he is very quickly brought to the presence of Yamaraj. Thus he has to pass 99,000 yojanas, 792,000 miles, in 2 or 3 moments, and then he is at once engaged in the torturous punishment which he is destined to suffer. Do you want me to go through all those torturous punishments? Okay, I won't at the moment. I hear gnats and pulling out alive and hounds and vultures. Anyway, I'll just skip and go on to another section. The movements of the living entities. Within 4 months, I'll let you guess where this is. From the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely child, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt, and at the end of 6 months, the fetus, enclosed by the amnion, begins to move on the right side of the abdomen. Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stool and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worms. Bitten again and again all over the body by the hungry worms in the abdomen itself, the child suffers terrible agony because of his tenderness. He thus becomes unconscious moment after moment because of the terrible condition. Owing to the mother's eating bitter, pungent foodstuffs or food which is too salty or too sour, the body of the child incessantly suffers pain, which are almost intolerable. Placed within the amnion and covered outside by the intestines, the child remains lying on one side of the abdomen, his head turned towards his belly and his back and neck arched like a bow. Thus the child remains just like a bird in a cage without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? Whew, yeah, I mean, it's not as if these are, something which is not real. That's also real in the illusion of choosing sense gratification. And yet we still choose sense gratification. It's incredible, even though we know those things. That's why when Srila Prabhupada is the most expert spiritual master, because he elicits a very positive response from us. We do it willingly. We want to do it because we want to perform service. We want to get this higher taste, this great experience. Vishaya vinivartate, niraharasya dehinam, rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. He wants us to get that higher taste, and he's teaching us all along the way about this. But at the same time, we don't have to look far for the suffering. I mean, in their hunger and thirst in the baby in the womb starts to appear. But look, we're completely being thrown around the place by hunger and thirst now. Try not to pass stool, today, if you want to go. Try not to eat when you're hungry. And then when you get too full, I've eaten too much. Thirst, don't drink anything. This is where we are. This is where we're living. And I remember Ishani told me when she was a child that she used to hear this thing about you must be born again, and she used to find it really hard at night to take rest because she was thinking that she might die, so she has to get born again, and so she was really in fear that I have to die. I mean, this is the type of option that people have, and this is where we have to be very current. We have to be explained to people. We have to be relevant to people. We have to get through to people. We have this incredible, important information, and we have this opportunity to become the most successful person that we can ever be. We can be the really best person we ever can be. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is telling us. It's there for us to do it. But we have to be able to get people, and we have to be able to reach people, and we have to be able to explain it to people. So many devotees are doing different ways of actually trying to reach it. I listened to an incredible podcast between Raghunath and another devotee recently, and they were just chatting to each other, two New Yorkers, and talking about current affairs, but then referring to the Bhagavatam all the way through. It was a kind of a Bhagavatam. My own spiritual guide, Satsuru Maharaj, he wrote a book called Poor Man Reads the Bhagavatam, and it's again the same thing. He was first one of the original bloggers, by the way, and so it was incredible. We have to be able to connect with people. It's a connection. So I'm not making any kind of. I just want to make just a point there that Satsuru Maharaj at the moment, one of the persons who refers to his books the most is a Baptist preacher. Can you imagine that? He's a Baptist preacher who regularly connects with him. And he uses some of the things that Satsuru Maharaj uses in his weekly sermons, you know. And so I'm just trying to think of, we've got to get different ways in which we connect with people. Do you know what I mean? And this is the art. This is the art. I was listening to one of our devotees the other night, and she does a lot of work with healing and all the various aspects of healing. And it's the first time I've ever seen her in this context. And she was, as she was speaking, she had this beautiful picture of Radha and Krishna behind her. Beautiful, beautiful picture. And I know she's an intense chanter of the holy name as well. And she was explaining to people about karma. But she was doing it in terms of people could understand, and she was relating. So over the years, she's built up this persona which she relates with people, but she's explaining about the nature of spiritual life to them as well. So that's one example of a person who's getting to people that, whereas people see Hare Krishna, they may not want to become involved with them. So in the same way, if we set up systems in society at the moment that people find out that we're Hare Krishnas, not because we're Hare Krishnas, because they see that we're living in an intelligent way and we're walking our talk, then they'll get access to what Prabhupada is speaking here. The supreme, inspiring person of who we are in this life, you know. So whatever it takes, if we don't have very serious practitioners in our temples getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and it's such a loss to our society. You know, if we don't have people there who are practicing in that way, just as what our Madhava Krishna was saying the other day about who were, you know, living on the SAT platform, who are discussing and trying to, you know, be on that actual incredible platform that Srila Prabhupada has set up. If that's not there, if there's not examples of that there, then the whole thing fades. Is the whole Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Srila Prabhupada set up a whole society, and these practitioners on the top. Okay, so I want to conclude there. Just the last couple of lines in the purport. Srila Prabhupada said, therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in his service, because his service and his person are identical. And this is the word he uses twice. The sincere devotee should go on with his sincere service of the Lord, with the sincere service of the Lord. And then this is powerful thing occurs here, you know, I'll leave it at the end. The Lord will give proper direction as to how and where it has to be done. So no need to worry about what to do. If we get on that platform anywhere near it, Krishna will be Krishna is directing us, but he will get us right to that. We don't have to worry. We have our spiritual guides, Guru, Shastra, Sadhu. We've got the guides there to tell us what to do, and Krishna within. You know, Krishna is the super soul within. You know, he'll guide us. You know what to do. So there's no fear. You know, no fear. We will actually go to that place because we're Krishna conscious. It doesn't matter what happens in the material sphere. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Appreciate very much giving me the opportunity to speak, and if there's any comments, any questions, anything, I'll just go over if anyone wants to say anything. Is there anything? Okay. So thank you very much again. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Hare Krishna. Jai.